Two channels, one respondent, no research. Hey guys, it's the Metal Blade 5, and welcome to my response to 1 Minute Melee. So for those of you who may have never heard of the show, 1 Minute Melee is a show in which two fictional characters are pitted against each other in a fight that obviously lasts for a minute, and the winner is basically chosen by random. To make things simpler, the show is practically Death Battle, but with no research and only lasting a minute. In fact, the show was created by the former Death Battle animators because they wanted to do more fights. Now, I don't have anything against 1 Minute Melee or the creators, since I don't know exactly who they are. While I haven't seen many episodes, the majority of the ones I have seen, I have liked a lot, and I did like the initial idea of the show being mini death battles. However, there are ways in which I think the show can be improved, which is what this video is about. Now, for this video, I'll be talking about issues I have with the show that I think can be improved to make the show better. And these will be things that I find legitimate problems. I do have a personal issue of finding things weird when a character who I think would win loses, like in Sonic vs. The Flash, but that's a result of me being used to Death Battle and not a fault of the show. So for the first issue I have with the show, I don't think this issue is likely to occur again, but still wanted to talk about this. My issue is that sometimes 1 Minute Melee do matchups that have either already been done in Death Battle at the time they are uploaded, or use characters that have already been in Death Battle against a different opponent. Now that isn't the issue. My issue with this is that in these cases, the fights are really anticlimactic in my opinion, because every time they use a Death Battle combatant who lost, whether it be in the same matchup or against a different opponent, they always win. With one exception. This makes the fights really predictable, as you'll know who wins. Every time this happens, I've been able to successfully predict who will win simply because they lost the Death Battle. For example, when Wario vs. Knuckles was uploaded, I instantly knew that Knuckles was going to win since he lost to Donkey Kong in Death Battle. This first started with Deadpool vs. Deathstroke, where Deathstroke won since he lost Death Battle. This was even admitted by the animator, and has been following this trend ever since, even up to the last time they have done it, from what I at least know of, which is Green Arrow vs. Hawkeye, which again, able to successfully predict that Green Arrow would win because he lost in Death Battle. Now, with 1 Minute Melee no longer being a part of Screw Attack, I think it's unlikely this will occur again, but I wanted to talk about it just in case, if they do another matchup that's already been done in Death Battle, or use another character that's lost. Furthermore, a similar issue I have is that 1 Minute Melee likes to sometimes create a plot in their episodes, like with Death Battle, to give a reason why the characters are fighting each other. However, this can also make the fights predictable depending on what they do with the plot. There have also been times where I have successfully predicted the winner of the fight because of the plot even before the fight actually begins. I typically see this as the case when one character is portrayed as the hero in the specific scenario that it's set in, and the other as the villain. For example, in Link vs. Sora, they portray Sora as the hero since Link is attacking him, Donald, and Goofy for no reason at first, and I instantly predicted that Sora would win because of it, and would you look at that? Sora won! I also find this the case when one character is clearly focused on more than the other. I think the worst example of this issue is in the fight between Peacock from Skullgirls and BB Hood from Darkstalkers, as Peacock is clearly shown as the hero of the scenario and BB Hood is barely focused on, and guess what? Peacock won! While I like the fact that the animators give a reason for why the characters are fighting in 1 Minute Melee, I think it would actually benefit without a plot, since it would make the fights less predictable. Either that, or focus on both characters equally and make them both neutral in their specific scenario. The reason why I'm going on about predictable fights being an issue is that since 1 Minute Melee doesn't use research, it makes the fights interesting in the sense that you don't know who will win, and a predictable outcome gets rid of that. Now, another issue I do have with 1 Minute Melee, which kind of annoys me, is that they have on occasion pulled some troll moves. This has only happened twice so far in all the episodes I've seen, but I personally find it annoying and it does bother me. The two episodes I'm referring to when this happens are Mega Man vs. Samus and Bowser Jr. vs. Metal Sonic. In Mega Man vs. Samus, it appears that Mega Man wins by shooting Samus into a black hole. However, it is revealed that Samus is actually the SA-X from Metroid Fusion, and the real Samus shows up and teams up with Mega Man to kill it. However, at the end of the fight, they announce Mega Man as the winner. But they didn't fight! I know you could argue that since the SA-X copies Samus, it shows that Mega Man would beat Samus, but in Metroid Fusion, it is stated that the SA-X only copies Samus' raw power rather than her skill and strategy. Now, in Bowser Jr. vs. Metal Sonic, I think they pulled an even bigger troll move. This is because the title pretty much lies to you. Before the fight begins, you see Bowser Jr. and Metal Sonic about to fight, but then Metal Sonic is destroyed and instead Bowser Jr. has to fight Mecha Sonic. Specifically the Super Mario Bros. Z version of Mecha Sonic. I'm pretty sure you can guess who wins. I know this sounds a bit nitpicky, but I find these troll moves to be a bit annoying and would rather have an actual battle between the two combatants as promised. Another issue I have had with two specific episodes is that there have also been some anticlimactic battles which make them less fun for me to watch personally. For this issue, I'm referring to Dante vs. Rockna and Mewtwo vs. Frieza. In Dante vs. Rockna, at about the last 6 seconds of the fight, Rockna starts teleporting around Dante in the build to a powerful finishing attack. During this part of the battle, I was expecting Dante to be tracking Rockna's movements or something to counter the attack, but instead Dante just gets hit by it and loses. I'm not complaining that Dante lost, but I found that to be kind of lazy and anticlimactic, as Dante literally just stood there and let himself get hit by this attack that took like forever to charge. I think it would have been better if Dante at least tried to dodge or counter the attack, but failed and get hit rather than having him just stand there. This is the same case for Mewtwo vs. Frieza. At the end of the battle, Frieza creates a giant energy ball and throws it at Mewtwo, who just stands there and gets hit. Again, I'm not complaining that Mewtwo lost, but I think it would have been more of a climactic finish if either Mewtwo tried to flee or attempt to use Psychic to deflect the energy ball and fail rather than having them just stand there. Now, I know this next issue I have is going to probably be a bit controversial, but another issue I have had with 1 Minute Melee is that I think some characters are really badly represented. Now, I know 1 Minute Melee doesn't use research, so of course the characters won't be totally accurate, but even some of the characters' most basic abilities, in which you don't need to do research to learn about, are completely removed. I think the worst case of this is in Wario vs. Knuckles. Throughout the whole battle, Wario only uses farts and shoulder tackles, and none of his other iconic abilities or even his Smash Bros. Moves are used in the battle, while Knuckles has pretty much everything he had in Death Battle. Also, in Batman vs. Wesker, a lot of Batman's gadgets were flat out just removed, and they gave him these done Tron disc things. I'm pretty sure Batman has never used Tron discs in anything. Plus, they look really impractical to fight with. I also saw a case of this with Jotaro vs. Kenshiro. I hope I'm pronouncing their names right. While I've never seen either of their anime, they make reference to Kenshiro having some sort of ability in which his skin is indestructible or something along those lines in the battle, but it's ignored. Unless Jotaro has some way of bypassing it, in which let me know in the comments if that's the case. I just think that while no research is used, characters should at least have their most iconic attacks and abilities so that they are more properly represented in the show than what we've seen with Wario, Batman, and possibly Kenshiro. Now, for my next issue, this one may also be a bit controversial. I personally think that quite a few of the matchups in 1 Minute Melee make little sense. Like with Death Battle, 1 Minute Melee pits two combatants that have something in common with each other. However, I've seen quite a few matchups that don't make any sense in my opinion. For example, Link vs. Sora. What do these two have in common? The only thing I can think of is that they both use swords. But even that's a stretch, since Sora fights with a goddamn key. Plus, I also thought Sora pausing in the middle of battle was really unfair. For other examples, I can also mention Dante vs. Rockna, since the only thing they have in common is that they both wear red trench coats and have white hair, nothing to do with their characters. Catwoman vs. Black Widow to an extent, since while they are both femme fatales, I think Black Cat makes much more sense for an opponent for Catwoman. Mewtwo vs. Frieza, since the only major comparison I hear is that they look similar. And the biggest one in my opinion, Batman vs. Wesker. What do they have in common? The only similarity I can think of is that they both wear black. But that's such a stretch, since they have nothing else in common. I think that if they did more logical matchups, I think the episodes would be a bit better, since I'm more confused when I see these matchups rather than excited. Now we reach my biggest issue with 1 Minute Melee. Not only is this an issue which I think affects the show, but also because it has affected me personally, and it does give me a sort of a bitter taste in my mouth when I think of the show. My biggest issue is that I think 1 Minute Melee should place a greater emphasis on the fact it doesn't use research. Now this isn't really a fault of the show, as they state no research in the opening. This is the fault of the fans. I personally think that the 1 Minute Melee fanbase is one of the worst fan bases I have come across on the internet based on my experience. This is because they completely ignore the fact that no research is used. I've seen episodes in which people use the outcome of 1 Minute Melee to actually state that this is what would happen if these two characters fought each other, and it annoys me. I've also seen people post comments along the lines of this is totally what would happen, when obviously 1 Minute Melee isn't accurate. Now, why I find this such a big issue relates to why this has affected me. I've had a few experiences in which I comment on a video and people attack me for my opinion on the outcome of battle. For example, and this is something I mentioned in my Mega Man 2 LP, is in Deadpool vs. Deathstroke. I posted a comment saying this video is redundant, since it had already been done in Death Battle. I knew that the animator was already working on it, but I still thought it was pretty redundant. And this Deathstroke fan named It's Deathstroke, with Deathstroke as his profile picture, started accusing me of being a Deadpool fanboy and hating on the episode just because Deadpool lost. Now, in actuality, I actually like both Deadpool and Deathstroke just as much in their own rights. I don't prefer one over the other. And my comment didn't say anything about the outcome, it just said, this video is redundant. I made this perfectly clear to the guy, but he just completely ignored me and still said that I was butthurt over the outcome. What's worse is that I saw this guy attacking other people for the same reason. I even called him out on it on one comment because I was sick of his arrogant attitude, and he called me a whiny kid, in which he actually got a thumbs up from someone, which pissed me off. But that doesn't even compare to what happened to me in the comments section of Batman vs. Wesker. For those of you who haven't seen this video, Wesker wins. Now, I personally think that Batman would actually win. I don't want to go off topic, so I'll give the simple reasons as to why. I think that Batman's stealth could help him get around Wesker's speed, since Wesker's boss battle in Resident Evil 5 shows he doesn't have anything like a spider sense, and his speed is pretty much useless when he can't see an attack. The Batsuit would actually protect Batman from a lot of Wesker's attacks, as it can protect Batman from pretty much all sorts of physical attacks. Batman is a master of all fighting styles, while Wesker is only a master of martial arts, and Batman has regularly fought foes such as Bane and Killer Croc, who is shown to lift weight heavier than what Wesker has lifted. But despite that, tons of people in the comments who believed that Wesker would win attacked me and called me a Batman fanboy just because I disagreed. I wasn't even being a jerk or calling the video bad, I was just stating my opinion. Plus, people were also comparing me to this other commenter named Zach Fair after the Final Fantasy character, who appeared to act more like a Batman fanboy than me, since he was saying things like, Batman would win instantly, which isn't true. I even clearly stated that I wasn't a fanboy since I was fine with Batman losing to Spider-Man in Death Battle. I even said that if the match was just a fist fight like the 1 Minute Melee was, then Wesker would win hands down. I've had plenty of times in Death Battle in which my preferred character lost, but I was fine with it since the reason why they lost made sense and was justified. It got worse when this one commenter, I forget his name, but his profile picture was some wrestler, kept saying that I was a fanboy and said that Wesker was better than Batman and calling me something like a crybaby, in which I lost my temper so much to the point that I commented something along the lines of what you see here without thinking, since I was so pissed off. In all honesty, Batman vs. Wesker is my least favorite episode, but not because of the episode itself. My only issue with the episode is that the matchup makes no sense. It's because I got attacked for simply stating my opinion. I also personally disagreed with the outcome of Link vs. Sora, since I think Link would win, for similar reasons to why he beat Cloud in Death Battle, but I didn't post a comment about it since I didn't want to be attacked again by 1 Minute Melee fans who can't accept an opinion that goes against the outcome. I just think that 1 Minute Melee should just put extra emphasis on the whole no research part of the show so that the fans will actually listen and accept other people's opinions. At one point in the show, they actually introduced a poll in which you could vote who you think would win, and I thought it was a really good idea since people can express their opinion without being attacked, but it just randomly dropped it for no reason, and I don't know why. The only issue I could have seen with this was that people could have just voted for who won the 1 Minute Melee, simply because they won and without doing any educated reasoning or research, in which I think a greater emphasis on no research can help with. Plus, in the new intro they're using for 1 Minute Melee now, they don't have the no research in it, and that worries me since I think this issue could become even worse as a result. And those are all of my issues with 1 Minute Melee. I'm not trying to make 1 Minute Melee sound bad. In fact, I actually recommend checking it out and making an opinion for yourself. But these are personal issues I have with the show that I think can be improved upon to make the show better. The idea for the show is really good, and there have been plenty of awesome fights with great animation. It's just that I think there is room for improvements in which the show can become even better. Especially if you find some way of dealing with these fans who take every episode so seriously and attack others who disagree, since, like I said before, it created this very negative picture of 1 Minute Melee fanbase for me. And with that, I'll see you guys in my next response video.